Hello there, everybody. So, Megan and I here again doing
Yeah.
E3 2004 stuff. Bit of a confession to make that I literally just realized as we're going on to 2005. I don't know what happened to this one. We recorded it. I can't seem to find the file anywhere. I don't know if I moved it or accidentally deleted it. Because we did 2004. Every other one is fine. The show floor is fine. The other two conferences are fine, but I don't know what happened to E3 for Nintendo with this year.
Yeah, not too sure either. I
Yeah.
guess if we end up finding that later, you guys will not see this.
Well, I mean, that's true. They probably won't if I find it later. Or I may even just upload it as, like, maybe, like, I don't know, like, as, like, an unlisted video or something if I find it later. But it's not the worst thing that could happen, considering how long this one is. But,
Yeah.
you know, it still kind of sucks. So Megan and I kind of already know what happens with this one. We already, in our opinion, discussed who won E3, which we'll probably just discuss again real quick at the end of this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, once again from Cars Luck, thank you again. I know he did, he uploaded some other stuff. I think he did, like, some of the other conferences that we checked out. Not 2005. Megan and I canonically haven't done that yet. In real life, I mean.
We haven't started it, no.
We haven't started
We're
that
going
yet.
to today.
We're going to today, and then it's like, uh-oh, Megan, I can't find Nintendo E3 2004.
Oh no.
And then devastation took over. All right, ready, Megan?
Yeah.
Let's get to it. I don't have it muted. I haven't muted. Whoops. Whoops.
Ooh.
So that's... Okay, there you go. Okay, we're good now. All right, Nintendo. Let's go. But, you know, I will put it like this. At least, right, in hindsight, if we see something that I would have paused on before, we can now probably say, oh, it's just this game. Or something, right?
That's true, yeah, because we did have a bit of a discussion last time. I believe it was about Star Fox Assault, because it doesn't have the title in here.
True. Oh, is that this video? Oh, that may have been this video.
I think it was in this one when we were trying to look it up, because we thought it was the one that was canceled, right?
Yeah. Well, now Megan's getting ahead of us a little bit.
A little bit. We'll talk more about that when we see it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when we see it. I know I also paused it a lot on the Mask Guy because I wanted to see what game it was. We know what it is later. But anyway, Resident Evil 4, when it was when it became the RE4 that I knew, right?
Yeah.
Lots of fun, great game. Same with Killer 7, really solid. Like, honestly, just really good games overall, right?
Yeah. Paper Mario 1000 Year Door, classic.
Classic. And yeah, there was Star Fox, which we paused on, because we saw it, and we saw it had UI. And we're like, okay, wait a minute, maybe it did get released.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we looked it up, and it was Star Fox Assault. And I'm like, oh, I never played Star Fox Assault.
I never did either. I didn't know it existed.
Okay, I may as well pause it because I know I want to talk about Reggie. Because I know we talked about Reggie, right?
We did talk about Reggie, yes.
So, yeah, Star Fox Assault, we never played it. Or, like, I never played it. I used to be pretty big into Star Fox. After Adventure, I stopped really caring.
Yeah.
So I knew Star Fox Assault came out, but I didn't really know what it was about. I thought it was just back in the R-Wing, right? Like, I thought it was classic Star Fox, basically. So I didn't know it had on-foot sections, which is why I got confused about that.
That's fair. I didn't grow up with a GameCube, so I didn't know about Star Fox Assault, because I've only ever really heard people talk about Star Fox Adventure when it comes to GameCube games.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of funny, actually, in hindsight now, because a very nice person in the comment to which one was this? Nintendo. Was this show floor? This might have been the show floor. No, this was in the 2003 Nintendo press conference. A fella named My Darkest Friend with a cool Alf profile picture. Actually, he did mention, he's like, Star Fox Assault was the mysterious Star Fox game you were baffled at. It was developed by Namco. He gave some pretty good info on it. About how it was developed by Namco, you know, back when Nintendo was giving out their IPs to other studios. F-Zero
Yeah.
GX and Metroid Prime being two of them. And yeah, he was like, oh, it's an okay game. Suffered in the reviews, it was really short. On-foot sections were considered bland and frustrating. And he's like, but, the R-Wing sections, in my opinion, are Star Fox 64 worthy. And in hindsight, this is why it's kind of funny to me now. First off, thanks to him, he seems pretty cool. But I then replied like a day after that saying like, yeah, thanks for your explanation. In 2004, we did figure it out. You'll see that. But if it was in this video, then then see that's what I mean by I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh yeah, we figured that out, but I didn't know like all this other info. So thank you. So yeah, so this is that. This is when we would have learned about it basically because we paused and looked it up. So yeah, Star Fox Assault. Yeah, there's that. Now Reggie here. What can you really say about Reggie that hasn't already been said? His first E3 appearance, or at least as a conference speaker, right?
Yeah.
Young, full of life, will remain full of life and seeming young throughout his next like what couple decades?
I think it's about 15 years because he retired as like president of Nintendo America in like 2019.
Yeah. So, right now he's out there, he's speaking, and he truly is a legend. Like, let's be real, right? Reggie is what everybody kind of wants in a spokesman. Like, in someone who's gonna go out there and like talk on stage, I mean, right? Yeah, so see, like now here's the thing that I mentioned out too, right? Like, the first thing Reggie says is so indicative about what kind of person he is, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is people's first impression of the guy from E3. Literally his first show doing it. This is what he says.
My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass. I'm about taking names. And we're about making games.
Yeah, right? Like, see? It's, like, see, like, that tells you all you really need to know about Reggie, like, straight out the gate. Right?
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I don't know, he's just so good. He's just really, really good.
Yeah, he does have some pretty good moments throughout the years. He is pretty fun in terms of personality.
He is. And this, if I remember correctly, is Metroid Prime 2, right?
It should be, yeah.
Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, which I remember when we watched this for the first time. I knew it was Metroid Prime 2 because it has, like, Evil Samus, right?
Yeah.
But I forgot it had Echoes as a subtitle. I just always remember it as Metroid Prime 2.
I think that's kind of the way people normally refer it to. But yeah, like, I've seen the Evil or Dark Samus suit, and obviously, like, the amiibo and stuff. I don't have one, unfortunately. Maybe one day I'll get one. But, like, I didn't know it originated from the Prime games.
Yeah, because, like... Yeah, I find it interesting that with Metroid Prime 2, they're kind of retreading on, like, the Evil Samus thing from, Fusion? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they have, like, a very similar kind of deal in Fusion. It's like Samus X or something like that.
Okay. Also, I do like how they were kind of doing a multiplayer mode in this game as well.
Yeah, right. I don't know if did Prime 1 have like a multiplayer mode?
I don't know. I don't believe so, but I never played it, so I can't say for sure.
We like games with big stars and big explosions.
Hell yeah, Reggie.
That's such a simple line, and like he's giving it with a delivery where his eyes are like wide open. It's like he's trying to intimidate people. But yeah, so this is Star Fox Assault.
Yeah, this is Star Fox Assault.
Because before it had a subtitle.
Yeah, right. Like, because Megan and I initially paused on the initial bit that we saw, I think, or did we pause it around here? Maybe it was around here. I don't remember.
No,
so
I
this is
think
where
we paused at the initial bit because I noticed the UI changes, so we kind of talked about it a little bit. We tried to look it up, and then we saw this, and we're like, okay, this had to be released. So then we looked it up and found Star Fox Assault.
Yeah, okay, that was it. Yeah, and then we're like, oh, yeah, you know, maybe I should give the game a shot, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if the flight levels are actually like Star Fox 64, then that means they're pretty good, even if the rest of the game is kind of trash, right? Or mediocre,
Yeah.
I guess would be the proper way to put it.
Yeah, because I don't think this one goes for too much money. Like, if we found it at our local game store, I want to say I've seen it there before for maybe like 50 or 60 Canadian. So we could get it relatively cheap, along with the Star Fox Adventures.
Yeah, like probably true, right?
Yeah.
And we like games so scary, they keep you up at night.
All right, sure.
Dude, I love Reggie. Oh.
Oh.
Same guy at the switchboard, I see. From the previous, what was it? Sony and Microsoft?
It was the Sony one, yeah. If you guys haven't seen that video for whatever reason, definitely go check it out. But we were kind of just laughing because he was like very slow to transition scenes, and he did make an error where he showed a thing from like Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal later during the middle of a transition.
Yeah, it was really funny. I do feel bad for that guy still. But, you
Yeah.
know, hopefully he didn't lose his job. So,
I mean, hopefully not. I don't know. I'd be curious to see, like, I know we talked about this a little bit last time, but I'd be curious to see, like, what the process would be to hire somebody like this. Like, would it be a representative of, like, the LA Convention Center itself, or would it be someone that Sony, Nintendo, etc. hired for their own team?
Yeah. I'm not too sure. I'd be curious to know, too. But, I do want to say, once again, Resident Evil 4, really, really good. Highly recommended.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games in the series. Same with the remake, honestly. Both really good. You can watch my videos on that as well. I did streams of both. The OG and the new one.
Yes, and you will get me to play these games one day.
I will. Although that probably won't be on video form. Probably. Unless you
No,
wanted it to
that's
be.
gonna be...
But
No, that's probably just gonna be an us thing.
I probably let everybody know about it, though.
It is game time.
It
Okay,
is
yeah.
game time.
A new day for me and a new day for Nintendo. So let's get a couple things straight right off the bat. Part of my job is finding a way for you, the game experts, to have fun. At the same time,
Thanks, Reggie.
I understand if you're among the terminally hip, Nintendo isn't your
Terminally
only choice
hip.
for gaming. But maybe what you've already seen helps you understand that we're serious about expanding what we do. We also understand that we're not going to run our company just for hardcore gamers. There are gamers out there who aren't.
So, you know, I looked it up, and I guess in 2004, Reggie wasn't actually president of Nintendo yet.
Gamers who
Yeah.
live
I don't know.
for
I don't
Mario
remember exactly when he
and
became
Yoshi
president.
and
2006.
Pokemon. It's
Okay.
my job,
So only a
Once.
couple years.
Nintendo's job, to make sure we satisfy all the gamers, and to do it.
I do like the
better
one
than
guy
our
in the chat
competition.
when, like, he mentioned Pokemon. Someone's like,
You
yeah.
know that this is your third stop on the press tour over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, and I made mention here. So it's going back to, I know something I said during here was, I said, this is, so I got the order right, basically. Because I know during Sony and Microsoft, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the order that they came out in. Right?
Yeah.
And Reggie confirmed it. And I remember I was really happy because stuff happens in this which is really, like, relevant.
We know what you've seen.
So, like,
and heard.
relevant. Yeah, see?
So let me draw a comparison. One of our competitors is a manufacturer in Japan who wants to capture every one of your entertainment dollars, transporting all your content between all your electronics devices on their memory sticks.
So you're taking a shot at
We're
Sony,
not that
right?
company.
Like, I really like that. Like, this is
There's
when
another company out there
the war may
who
begun.
doesn't care what you
Oh, wait.
do, as long as you do it on their operating system.
See,
Yeah, they definitely threw some shade at both Sony and Microsoft.
they did, right? And this is why I'm actually really happy this is the year that I decided, okay, I'm gonna see if I can find out like what order they came out in, right?
Yeah.
Because I do remember they eventually do start taking shots at each other, right? And
Yeah.
I find it funny that I just happened to choose the year when Reggie starts taking shots at the competitors. And, you know, it makes so much sense that it's Reggie that starts it, right? Because
Yeah.
throughout all the other previous years, they don't really mention each other's conferences. Like, not really, right?
No,
Like,
like back in the 80s and 90s, like before E3 was really much of a thing, there was advertising campaigns between Nintendo and Sega mostly. But like they kind of stopped doing that once they started doing stuff at E3. They were kind of just all focused on their own thing.
yeah, like I do remember one of the E3s we saw. I think it was one of the late 90s ones where I think it was Nintendo did take a brief shot at like Sega. But I don't think that was
Yeah.
during E3. Like during one of their press conferences. I think that was during like a for fun thing that they were doing. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But, you know, it makes so much sense that because yeah, they don't really mention each other during the conferences at like around this time. They kind of stop that. But then Reggie strolls in and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna take a shot at Sony. I'm gonna take a shot at Microsoft. And you know what? It's absolutely brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Because it's showing, yeah, like it's showing like the kind of competitiveness there. He's like, you know, here are the things that we think the competition is kind of doing wrong, and we want to not do that, and we're gonna tell you why we're better for not doing that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart, right? And I really like it, and it's funny. Like that's the other thing too. Like this is the kind of thing that makes me smile, right? It's like, man, yeah, like preach, right? Like preach, Reggie. You know, like go out there and dunk on the competition if there's a reason to, and he has good enough reason to, and like the
Yeah.
crowd loves it, right?
We're not that company either. Over the years, I know you've heard a lot of Nintendo people say, we're all about the game. Well, guess what? We are.
Hell yeah.
Whether you're talking about Donkey Kong or Tetris, Madden or Mario, Metal Gear or Resident Evil, he with the best games wins. Always been that way, always will. As this company moves forward, you're going to see more Nintendo games and different Nintendo games, and most importantly, new ways for you to relate to your games. But let me tell you one other thing.
Okay, Reggie, let me hear it.
This is not a promise for what we're going to do sometime in the future. It's what we're doing right now. And if you don't realize that, listen closely. While others are talking, Nintendo is acting. Let me ask you a question. What company right now is driving category sales? If you said someone other than Nintendo, you're wrong. We have momentum.
Straight to the point,
Have
you're
had it
wrong.
since late last year.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel it yet, you will. I'll promise you that. Now, I'd like you to welcome a guy who's been essential in building that momentum, George Harrison.
Well, good morning. Reggie mentioned what's going on in the market right now, so let's take a look. This graph shows the industry sales, excluding Nintendo, over the last 2 quarters, compared with the previous period. Now, you don't need an MBA to realize that this really isn't a pretty picture. A full
I mean,
half
losing
year
money, yeah, it's
of
not too
negative
good.
growth. Now, let's look at what Nintendo's done in the same time periods. In the last 3 months of last year, up a whopping 21%. And in the first quarter of this year,
See, like that is really
despite
impressive.
the fact that we're competing
know.
with our own success, last
Yeah.
year launching Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, Zelda Wind Waker, and even Game Boy Advance SP, we're up another 7%. So without Nintendo, there would be no growth. On the console side, we see plenty of business yet to be done in this generation. And unlike one of our competitors, who appears anxious for this generation to end, we're intent on fully playing out our hand.
I wonder if
We've
that's
always played
shade
the
at
game
Sony.
Because it works.
Probably.
Right now, industry growth is being delivered by Nintendo, only by Nintendo. And that's because we're focused on the here and now. Here's the up-to-date scorecard on the console business.
Okay, I'm curious.
Over the last year, Sony has sold through about 6 million machines. That's a decline of about 28% from the year before. Microsoft moved about 3.3 million machines, 3.2 million machines, essentially flat with the previous year. During that same period, Nintendo sold through over 3.3 million units of GameCube, a jump
Now,
of 41%.
I do remember thinking,
And yes, that is
like,
good
kind of
for
wondering if
second
maybe
place.
this was kind of disingenuous a little
So when you
bit,
run the software
just because
equation,
Sony
we
already
check
sold a
very
lot
similar
of consoles, right?
Nintendo GameCube is more than holding.
Yeah,
Of course, the growth
I
isn't
was-
going to be as big,
So far in
you know?
2004,
Yeah, like
we
I was
sold
kind
more
of thinking the
games
same
per
thing when we
system
saw this
than
too. Because I
Microsoft.
mean, like at
And
this
we're
point, the
closing in on
PlayStation
Sony.
2 is already 3 years old.
Now,
You have so
overall,
many people who
the
have
three
already
systems
bought
combined
consoles,
have
and like
sold
yeah,
about
they're still
38
continuing
million
to sell
units in this
more,
generation.
but they're not going to keep up with
And
previous
we
years'
believe the
growth
potential
unless
for
there's a
this
big
generation is
change.
more
Now
than
I know they
55 million units.
will eventually come out with the
That
PlayStation
means there are
Slim
almost 20
that
million
people will
units
probably
still to
start
be
buying
sold.
more PlayStation
And
2s.
you have to ask
But I think
yourself,
at this
what
point,
will sell
people
more?
were kind of
Well,
settling out
this is
from
the
the fat
fourth system
PS2s
that
and
Nintendo
buying
has
other stuff.
introduced
And the
and managed
GameCube is
in the
also
back
a
half of
little
the
bit
console
newer, so it
cycle.
makes sense to be selling
And
more.
we've learned that success
Yeah.
here always relies on the same three things. First, we've all burned through the hardcore early adopters, the gamers who want the most extreme challenges.
So, I don't know. I just see a graph like that, and I think, like, okay, that's probably true, but there's probably, like, a lot more behind it that they're not saying, right?
Entertainment that's
Yeah.
easy to get into, and often just for a quick burst of time. And second, well, they want familiarity. They want names and characters from past
And I do remember
generations
here
that
you
they're
said, see, this is how much I remember,
And
right?
finally,
That you said
most
it was a choice
importantly,
making Luigi
they want
blue.
value. They're
Yeah,
looking for
it was a
bargains.
choice making Luigi
Major
blue for this
play,
picture. Like they could have just
mind
put him
and pay.
somewhere else that made him green.
Now, any of
But I
these
know
three
they wanted him
factors
beside
can
Mario.
win the market share in the back half of a console cycle. But if you've got all three going for you,
That's not a
this
choice I would
is
make
what you get.
if I was Nintendo.
We dropped the
That's what I'm
Nintendo
getting
GameCube
at.
price in late September. After 30 days,
See,
sales
and this
fell
actually, I want to point out, is may actually even be why, like, they saw a sudden surge in, like, GameCube growth, right?
Yeah,
Because this is really cheap, right?
it's really cheap. Yeah, honestly, like I know I was a kid, I didn't have a lot of money, but if I knew a GameCube was like $100, I would be very tempted to buy one at the time.
Yeah, like $100 for, like, a console like the GameCube, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we're seeing something really interesting, which is going to be really especially interesting to see in a couple years' time, how cheap some of the consoles are. Like, I know we have inflation and everything, but... And plus, it's been like a couple years already. Excuse me,
Yeah.
look at the GameCube and PlayStation. But, yeah, it's really interesting just how cheap the consoles were, right? Even at a base level. Because in a couple years' time in E3 terms, it's going to be quite a bit different. And we'll get there when we get there.
Nintendo GameCube
But,
price in late September.
like, that's a good price. Like, that would
After 30
definitely
days,
make,
sales
you know,
fell
the console
50%
surge,
over the same
right?
period in the previous
Yeah.
year.
Which, once again,
After 60
tells
days,
me, you know,
they
is
were up
there a graph for that a little bit, like,
And counting from
not
the holidays,
quite saying
even
the
though
full
we had already
story,
begun to
you
run
know?
out of inventory, we sold
Yeah,
more than
probably. Like I think they're
73%
being at
more
least a
GameCubes than
little
we did in the
deceitful
prior
with the way
year.
they're doing these graphs, but that's very common
Now,
for
this
graphs
chart
like
does two
these.
things.
It is, right?
First,
Because I
it
mean, you
shows
present
why
the
Nintendo
information
is
in a
driving growth
specific
for the
way, and it
industry.
looks
And at the
incredible.
same
Like I know
time,
I've seen
it
graphs
sets the
before
bar
where
for
like a
sales
company will
performance
brag
from our
about record
console
profits, and like the
competitors.
way they do the graph, it
Can
makes
those
it look like a
competitors
big
go
jump.
73%
But if you look
in
at the
their first 90
specific
days
numbers
after
on the
price
graph,
drop?
it's like maybe 0.5%
we'll
kind of
see.
deal.
Yeah, right?
More importantly, though, we suspect it will be quite some time until someone can match our $99 price point. The value advantage in a value-conscious market clearly remains with Nintendo. Now next, we're fully deploying the familiar franchises that are so popular with the mass market. At the top of our briefing, we showed you 3 games designed to move the souls of even the most veteran gamer. And we're intent on expanding the GameCube.
Yeah, like 2 of them did really well. The third one, not quite as much.
Yeah.
It may be the one without the subtitle.
On the show floor tomorrow,
And the one without any number.
A new Donkey Kong adventure.
Yeah, I
Jungle
think that's
Beat.
likely.
A move for Advance Wars.
Pikmin
for
2.
GameCube, and Mario making 2 appearances in Mario Party 6 and in Paper Mario.
Paper Mario
In
2.
all,
Before it had
Nintendo's
its
GameCube
name.
library will grow to more than 400 games this year. And the
Which I do find pretty
content
interesting,
online
actually, to see like
is
Paper
fun.
Mario 2 instead of Thousand Year Door.
Now, new ways of interacting aren't just limited to the GameCube. Now, as you're all aware, Pokemon has again taken the market by storm in Japan. With the
See,
new
that's why
Fire
Megan
Red and
isn't
Leaf Green
fun to
editions.
redo things
They
with.
sold
When this
through
came up
more
before,
than
she's like,
2.5 million copies in less
Pokemon!
than 50
Pokemon!
Now she's just
God.
completely silent.
But there's a brand new kind of appeal here, too.
It's like, Megan, you
Yeah.
gotta at least
Trade
try,
Pokemon
Megan. You
with
gotta
your
put a
friends
little
using the
effort
Game Boy
into
Advance.
I mean, that's
repeating
fair.
some of the stuff.
This
Yeah.
opens up whole new
I forget, did you
Like,
say anything
I-
with wireless adapter?
In
I'm sorry,
fact,
go ahead.
You'll soon be
Yes,
seeing
I was going
and
to.
playing
So when this came up before, I was mentioning about the wireless adapter because it was kind of like a new technology. They bundled it with Fire Red and Leaf Green with every copy of the game. And there was like certain mini games in the game where you could play together with people. I didn't do a ton of it because I didn't really know people that had it, but this was actually pretty interesting for the time because I think this was like the first way you could trade Pokemon without having an actual cord. You had to be relatively close to them, mind you, but it was still a nice little addition. I assume I still have at least one of mine somewhere. I'm not sure.
I mean, probably. I do find it to be a very interesting thing, especially since it came with the game initially, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool.
wirelessly with more than a
Yeah.
dozen titles. It's great software and innovation like this that have pushed every competitor out of the out of the portable game space. And 9 serious competitors have made a run at Game Boy in the past 15 years, but 9 have failed.
And this is probably just kind of throwing a little bit of shade at the PSP, if I had to guess. Yeah, it
The
owns
Game
the
Boy
market.
franchise this year
Right.
is also
Yeah.
making a significant revolution because of this.
So
feature.
they're like,
Game Boy Advance.
yo, we know the PSP is like a thing.
No new hardware or accessories
But,
needed to play
eh.
back pre.
Yeah, we're better at the handheld market.
Yeah,
Now-
because like even we see here they're trying to compete with Sony a little bit by having their own Game Boy Advance cartridges so you could watch things on there. Because during the Sony conference we saw they were basically putting movies on the UMDs.
Yeah. And I remember you telling me that these look like shit.
They do. I have one. I believe I still have it anyway. I can't remember exactly what all was on it. I know there was an episode of Fairly Odd Parents and there was an episode of Rocket Power and then there was an episode of something else. But like the quality on it, it's really not that good. It's a little bit blurry. The audio, it's very low bit rate. Like you could tell at the time it really wasn't a good way to watch it. I enjoyed it because I'm like, oh, I could just take out my Game Boy and watch something wherever. But like with the amount of capacity and with the quality, yeah, I don't know how well they sold overall. I want to say they probably did decently, but I don't remember seeing them in stores too long. So I don't think they were crazy popular or successful.
Okay. Because I don't see, even last time, I don't think you mentioned that you still may have had one. We should, if you do, we should give it a watch and just see how bad it truly looks.
Pre-recorded material.
Yeah, it
in
probably
small
doesn't look too
video
good on a
packs.
Game Boy. Like with the small screen and
The first
everything
titles
too.
will include multiple episodes of
Yeah,
Pokemon.
I guess I'll
others
just take a
on
quick
one
look
pack.
through my Game Boy Advance
Well,
games
will
and
it
see,
sell?
because they should all be in this
Initial
bag I
orders
have
are
here.
already over 2 million units. You can look forward to soon to material with a decidedly older appeal, and will have significantly larger memory capacity to allow even more video playback. Well, wireless connection and video playback really widen Game Boy's appeal. But in an important sense, that appeal is already expanding. It may surprise you to learn that 1/3 of all Game Boy Advance SP users are over the age of 18. And our classic
Yeah,
NES
and this is
line
kind of getting to be around the point
will bump the
of,
age
oh,
appeal
it's that one.
even higher.
It's the SNES or Nintendo, like NES Game Boy Advance SP.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny that we're doing this now, because I mentioned to Matthew the other day when I was looking on my Facebook page that our local game store actually got one of those SPs graded the other day as a trade-in.
Yeah.
It wasn't like super high value. It was rated at like a 75, but I thought it was kind of interesting that someone would grade that and then trade it in. So I hope that doesn't mean they're going through hard times or anything.
I mean, hopefully
But
not.
but I just thought it was kind of cool because they like to show stuff on Facebook page when they get certain trade-ins. I don't know how much they would be selling it for. I guess if we end up going down there, we'd probably check it out because I assume it would still be there.
I mean, probably.
1999 are sure to be a hit with gamers.
Also, yes, I still do have that Nicktoons Collection Volume 2 for anyone who's familiar with that.
Volume 2, not Volume 1. Understandable.
There is no doubt in our minds.
I'm gonna open it up because I'm kind of
that the
curious what's on
PSP
it.
will have some initial appeal for exactly the demographic in this audience today. But in this election year, let me put it this way. By the time the PSP
All
gets
SP.
on the ballot next spring,
Yeah,
more
I
than
thought this was kind of
25
funny. It's
million
like,
Americans
okay,
will have already voted for
they
Game
just
Boy
decided not to
Advance.
fill up like the top right corner in that
Now,
area,
if
like
you're
right by
asking whether
Washington
PSP
in the
can
top
catch
left, I
Game
think
Boy
it is.
Advance, maybe we should first ask, can the PS2 catch Game Boy Advance? Since its launch in June of 2001, Game Boy Advance has sold more units than PlayStation 2 in America.
Now, I will say that's also probably true, but I think generally handhelds were cheaper, right?
For that matter,
And they had a
Yeah,
lot
they
more
were.
casual games for the casual market.
has done exactly
Yeah,
the same
because like
thing.
there wasn't a lot of handhelds that
So we sit
actually
today
did
with
well
a
on the market,
roughly
but
100%
they were
market share
relatively
of the
cheap
handheld
compared to
market.
console counterparts.
Will that decline?
Also, that
Well,
Nicktoons
it
collection
certainly
has an
can't go
episode
up.
Fairly Odd Parents, Rocket Power,
But
and
that loyal
SpongeBob.
base
Nice.
of 25 million Game Boy Advance
It looks
owners
really bad
is
even on
just
my
the
DS
first of
though.
the many
Like
mountains
just
that
looking
Sony
at
has
it.
to climb. Game Boy Advance.
Maybe
Well, maybe you
maybe
can
I'll
show
have
me
to show you that
sometime.
later.
Tossed in the backpack,
Yeah.
carried in the briefcase, or even dropped in an airline terminal. With no internal
Yeah, so
drives,
this
it's
is also very
susceptible to
true,
product
right?
abuse.
Because you always told
Yeah.
me that one thing that Nintendo handhelds especially had was very durable, right?
It turns on, it
Yeah, that was
lags.
kind of like a big
The lack
keystone
of a moving
of
media
Nintendo
also
design
means that
at
the
the
gauge plate
time. Like I
powers
remember
on.
specifically
We
hearing
expect our
about a
battery life
story
to
about the Nintendo
significantly
DS
outpace-
where they had to get a
outpace,
prototype that it could
Sony's.
essentially withstand,
So,
I want to
we
say it
think
was
it's
like
enough to
10
be a
to
deal
20
breaker
drops
for
from
really
about
true
6
game
feet
players.
high
Now, finally,
without like
those of you
significant
who've been
damage or
around our
anything.
industry for a while
So I just found it
realize
kind of
that
interesting
Game
that
Boy,
they
at heart, really
prioritize
is a
that so
platform
much,
like
and I
any
wouldn't be
other.
surprised if that's a big
Built on the back of
reason
exclusive
why their
must-have
consoles were
titles.
kind of successful.
Game Boy
Because,
never would have
you know,
hit its
it's a
initial
console for
audience
kids,
without the
but
appeal of
you don't
Tetris
want your
and
kids to
Super
break
Mario
it.
Land.
And like even now, if you buy
Never
them an
would have
iPad,
leapfrogged
like
into
chances
sales
are they're gonna drop it
stratosphere
and break it.
without Pokemon.
Yeah.
These are games that launched
So we've
only
kind of
on
moved
Game
away
Boy.
from that in the last like 10,
Sony,
15 years,
just
but
like
at the time
Nokia
that was very
and others,
important. People didn't want to
have to
spend money
find a
on these
killer
consoles
application
if
before
they
could
were
truly
gonna
appeal
just
to the
break.
mass market. So bottom line, Game Boy set an all-time record last year. We sold through more systems than any other year in our history. And now, with the wireless play and the video playback, suddenly that appeal is that much greater. In the end, though, it's still about the games. And this year, you'll see Donkey Kong Country 2, F-Zero 2, The
The
Legend of
Minish
Zelda,
Cap.
Mario Advance, Mario Party, and Mario Pinball, all coming to Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, and those are all pretty big
Together,
titles too.
there's a heavenly array of hits.
They
for
are,
both Game
yeah.
Boy Advance and Nintendo GameCube. The stars truly are coming out.
Paper Mario 2.
Yeah, before it had the moniker.
Before it had the moniker. And I know around this point we did talk about like why it may have gotten rid of 2. And you made a really good point that because it's not really like related at all to Paper Mario 1.
It's
like
not
you get,
related.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Go
not, it's on a new console, so like the odds are they probably dropped the number because they wanted to encourage more people to pick it up.
Yeah. And like yeah, because you don't really see any of the party members like in Paper Mario 2. You get like a cameo of like 1 or 2 or a mention. But that's really about
Okay.
it, right?
Yeah. Geist.
Geist, which I do want to get at some point.
Yeah, I don't think this would be too hard of a game to find, and it's probably relatively cheap. Donkey Kong Country 2, huh? That's impressive they got a game like that working on the Game Boy Advance, though.
I mean, it is. But I guess the Game Boy Advance is kind of running on like Not Super Nintendo hardware, but like, you know.
It's probably in between NES and Super Nintendo.
I mean, possibly.
Like, I don't know. Maybe someone knows more specifically about the specs to compare them. I just assume that it probably generally runs a little bit better than the NES, but obviously it's got like the color pixels and a bit more stuff, but I don't think it's quite as powerful as a Super NES, especially when it comes to 3D environments.
I mean, potentially. Like, it might just, like, honestly, it might even just be a mixture between, like, Super Nintendo and, like, Nintendo 64. Like, obviously not good enough to go 3D. Tales of Symphonia, look at that.
Yeah, this was a big one for people who really like Tales. It was probably one of the first Tales games that got a lot of notoriety. Even today, like, if someone asks which Tales game they should play first, almost everyone will tell you Symphonia. I don't think you necessarily have to. My first one that like I fully played through was Abyss. I did play some Symphonia before that, but I never finished it. But they're both very good games. And we'll see Abyss probably in a couple years. I don't know if it would be in a conference or if it would just be on the show floor. But
yeah. I really need to play a Tales game at some point. Like,
I do want to play more of them. Because the only ones I've finished at this point would be Abyss, Tales of Hearts R, and Symphonia. But there's a lot of Tales games. Honestly, I guess even if you wanted, we could play those co-op too.
Can you? I guess you can. Yeah, we could.
Yeah,
we could
like,
try that.
Like most of the overworld stuff is single player, but like when it comes to the combat, you can play co-op up to 4 people.
Yeah, we could do that. That sounds like a fun idea.
Yeah.
Fraggin and Megan actually playing video games together.
Woohoo!
Instead of one of us just watching.
I mean, yeah, I would like to do more co-op stuff. I know we've talked about this when it comes to like Kiwi and
Game Boy Advance.
what's the other one? It Takes Two.
It Takes Two, yeah.
And probably A Way Out eventually.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I know that a lot of the portable gamers that we have, and there's millions of them. I think the dual screen.
I saw Pokemon's Coliseum in the background.
I think
Yeah.
the dual screen is the next
I do want to
forward.
play that sometime
It looks
soonish.
like it could be a really neat concept. It's 2 screen systems. Never
Ooh,
been
dual
done before. Well, I
screens?
think everybody else is gonna have to
Talking
catch
about
up.
the DS?
Yeah.
They're talking about the dual screen coming out. I can't wait for it to come out. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, the DS was a pretty novel concept at the time because I
Very.
don't think anyone was really like trying to do multiple screens, especially one that's a touchsime.
Yeah, like honestly, it's such a
Well, the wait is
unique and
over.
good idea. And look at that, look how Chad that is.
Nintendo DS.
It's like, here's
Yeah.
the DS, right? Because I know
Yeah,
previous E3s,
this-
they didn't even talk about like another console, like another handheld in development, right?
Yeah, no, I think last time they were just talking about the release of the Game Boy Advance SP because it just came out, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a chunky DS. Like, I never got an original DS. The one I have is a DS Lite that came out a few years later, but that thing is huge. It's bulky as hell.
Yeah, right. It is very bulky. It kind of looks like a bit of a prototype, to be honest. Which it probably
Yeah,
is.
I don't think the retail ones are quite exactly like that, but I think in terms of size, they're relatively the same.
I mean, potentially.
I'm not sure. I've only ever used the original DS a couple times.
But this right here, absolutely the PSP killer, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, before PSP even came out, like, Nintendo was ready to demolish the PSP. Right? Because
Yeah.
PSP's like, Sony's like, here, we're gonna announce PSP, and Nintendo's like, guys, like, we already we own the handheld market. You know, here's a DS, right? Here's just a DS for you, right?
Yeah.
Here's the surprise, and it like the PSP didn't stand a chance after this.
Yeah, like I will say, I think the PSP overall did pretty well. Like, I mean, it got a few different revisions and it got quite a few games. And I mean, for the time, being able to play even like a PS2 quality game, even if it wasn't quite as good as console, but like handheld was amazing. But like in terms of like, I guess the games they got on it and like, you know, the unique experiences, the DS by far won out.
By far, like, there's a reason that Sony eventually just gave up on handhelds, right? You weren't
Yeah.
beating Nintendo at all. It's not happening.
Yeah, because like realistically, most of the games that came out on PSP that were also on PS2, it's just like Yeah, you could play them portably, but like in a lot of cases, the experience was quite a bit worse. Now, I'm not going to say that's for every game. I know there are exceptions, like even when it comes to games I'm familiar with. From what I understand, the PSP version of Ratchet and Clank Size Matters and Secret Agent Clank are much better on PSP because of porting issues to the PS2. But just the fact that a lot of them is just like, yeah, they're not quite as good as their console counterparts. They definitely feel like they've lost some features or, quality of life stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like people be kidding themselves if they say like PSP even had a chance at beating this. And in hindsight, we know it didn't.
Its code name,
right?
You've known these initials to represent the most obvious feature, dual screens. But that's not what the initials stand for to us. DS has a much larger and more relevant meaning.
Because, like, honestly, even when it comes to the PSP, I think part of the reason why it struggled was because of the memory sticks. Because, like, they weren't quite as expensive as, like, the Vita memory sticks later on, but they were relatively expensive and they didn't really give you a lot of space. You essentially had to put every single save game and install data on that memory stick, so you kind of needed a lot more data than you would by just having the save on the cartridge. So that probably turned off at least some people.
Probably, right? I could see that. Because Sony was kind of doing it with, like, well, the way that they were always kind of used to doing it, like a memory card. I mean, GameCube still used the memory card, but it was starting to be like come the next generation, we're getting rid of that, basically, and everything's going to be saved on console, right?
Yeah, and like, honestly, if they went with that approach in the Vita, it probably would have done a lot better, but they tried to continue to do the memory stick because they wanted to sell their proprietary hardware.
Yeah. Make them a bit more bank, but yeah, no, people were that wasn't the thing going forward anymore. It was starting to advance past like the need for memory cards.
Yeah.
Larger and more relevant meaning. DS, developer's system.
And I remember when we initially did this, I'm saying this because I knew you weren't going to say it again, Megan. You're like, oh, that's kind of lame. I prefer like dual
it is. I always thought DS stood for dual screen, not development system.
Well, it does. It does stand for dual screen. He just said to us, it stands for development system because they're developers too, right?
I mean, it makes sense.
And they
like,
want
I'm
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just saying, I know every console has like their own code name and stuff before they came out, so that's what they probably consider it, but yeah.
Well, and plus it's a way, because, once again, this is, like, it's a conference for everybody to watch, but it's also still a conference for, like, the developers too, so they can see, like, what's coming up and what's going to be happening, right? And so by saying that, they're appealing to the developers as well. Saying like, hey, look, it's going to be different to develop on. You're going to have a lot more freedom to try stuff. Like what we're hearing with this, right? Like, because it's such a different idea. It's like touchscreen. That's pretty neat. What can we do with that? What can we do with dual screens? Right?
Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the strengths of the DS games in general, is that they're very good at using all the different technologies in them when it comes to the dual screens and the microphones, and like obviously they don't all get it perfect, but it definitely added a lot of variety to games that other game consoles just didn't have.
Yeah. So I'm sure for a developer, it's probably pretty exciting to think about, like, it gets your creativity flowing, right? So, like, how can we use the dual screens? How should we use the dual screens? What
kind of things we want players to enjoy.
So, like, I'm sure on the developer side of things,
change the contents of the game.
It is pretty exciting,
and how to
right?
make the game.
Oh, for sure. Like, it gives you a lot of creativity and freedom to be able to design games in a different way. Unfortunately, as a result of that, like trying to port some games from the DS or 3DS, it makes it a little awkward. But at the same time, I'd be kind of curious to see if we'll ever get like another innovation like that, where that will change game development quite a bit. Like, aside from VR, because I mean, obviously VR is still a relatively new space.
The development community already understands what's going on.
That's really kind of the one problem with the DS, though, is not being able to really port things.
Admit it.
Right.
Your left brain looks at a vehicle in terms of the numbers. What's the horsepower, the towing capacity, the 0
Yeah,
to
because
60.
unfortunately, even if we look at like the
That's our
3DS and like
competitor's
games that you could
approach.
port onto the Switch,
But
the
your
dual
right brain
screens
is
kind of
different.
just make it really awkward to put it
There's
on the
only
Switch
one
because of
question
the
out
screen
there.
resolution, the
Sitting
size,
behind
and
the
the
wheel,
fact that
where will
at
this
least
baby
half
take
the
you?
screen needs to be touchscreen,
In
so you
other
wouldn't be able to
words,
play it in
do you
docked
wanna
most
go
likely,
just a
unless
little
they
Yeah.
did
bit
adaptive
faster
controls, kind of
down
like
the
how they
same
did with
streets you've always driven,
The World
or
Ends
down a
with
new
You,
road
I think it
to
is.
places you've never seen before?
I'm not too
That's
sure.
the difference with Nintendo DS.
Because
Let
yeah,
me
that was
explain
originally
how this
a
new
DS
journey
game
is
that
going to
had like
happen.
combat happening on the
Up to
top
now,
screen and the
most of what the
bottom screen
world
at the same
knows
time, and you
about
kind of had to use the
DS
touch controls.
are
And like,
those two
from what I
screens.
understand, they did a decent job
Today,
porting
it's
it to
my
Switch, but
privilege to
it
tell
just
you
feels
the
a lot
rest
more
of the
clunky
story.
because you don't have the dual screens.
But let's start with the two screens. Each is programmable in
Wait, hold on. Hold on. We heard something interesting in the crowd there that I kind of want to point out, right?
But let's start with the two screens. Each
Okay, wait.
story. Today, it's my privilege to tell you the rest of the story.
No, maybe not.
But let's start with the two screens.
Maybe
Each
it's around
is
here.
programmable in
I know crowd
2D
does do something.
or 3D. The choice is up to the game designer.
I think.
This opens a wealth of options for the developers, and they're
Like, you can
totally
still talk.
excited
I'm
about it.
sorry.
The
I mean,
3D
I was
quality
waiting
is
to see if it
simply
was going to
beautiful.
happen soon or not.
Most of you remember
I think I was
how you
incorrect.
felt the first time you saw Super Mario
mean, that's fair.
64
I do remember
on
something
Nintendo
in this
64.
where
It was
I
a
want to
breakthrough
point out,
that
but I don't know
took
if
the
it's here or
industry by
not.
storm.
Yeah, I
But
think
this
when
is
we watched
Nintendo
this
DS
originally, I
action
kind of commented on the fact that it's kind of funny
playing
that they
on our
essentially
new
made Super
portable
Mario
system,
64 like
just
a
as you'll
launch
see
title
it
for the
on the
DS
show
and the
floor
N64.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Isn't it exciting?
This would have been really cool at the time to be able to play a game like this portably, because like we're used to very much having stuff like
Well,
Game Boy
then
Advance, like 2D
Mario
pixel
sees
sprites kind of
himself
stuff.
in Nintendo DS, and he feels like flying. Now, how exactly do these screens get used? Well, again, it's developer's choice.
Okay, I think it's
But for
around here.
starters, one character can stand 2 panels high,
Maybe.
or take 2 different perspectives of the same battle.
See, like, that is
or
really cool.
monitor constantly available
Yeah.
Right.
maps and menus.
That gives you a lot of options.
Here's a brand new Metroid game playing on Nintendo DS.
See, crowd loves it. Crowd absolutely loves it. I think it is
Yeah, I
around
do
here,
find it-
actually.
Same way
Like I
Okay.
do find it funny, like how into it they get when it's just a mini map. Like
Well, I think
I
it's,
understand.
well, I think it's more so like the fact that it's a Metroid game, like on the handheld.
Yeah.
It's not so much the mini map, right?
I mean that's fair. That's fair.
Because like at this point, we didn't know that there was going to be a Metroid game like on a handheld, and this kind of looks like Echoes, even, right? So it's like
Kind of,
it's
yeah.
like, whoa, we're getting like a Metroid game that looks like this on a handheld, right?
Yeah.
But I do find it
That's
very
fair.
innocent of you to see this and go, man, they're getting really excited for that mini map, aren't they?
That's because that's just what he's talking about.
Wait, okay, but here, listen to him like say like Metroid, like see if you can assume it's the mini map, right?
Here's a brand new Metroid game playing on Nintendo DS.
Yeah, like, see, like I think it's for the Metroid game.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right, but you know that's
The same
fine.
way you'll be playing it tomorrow.
It's like a drop surprise. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Targeting and shooting now moves beyond buttons. Just tap the screen where you want to fire. Metroid's
Yeah,
mission-
see, like you can hear the crowd at that, right? It's like, whoa, you can shoot by
Yeah.
tapping. It's like, man, that's crazy, right? Like, see, innovative, right? Very, very innovative, and really
Yeah.
impressive as a result,
have
right?
always been nerve-wracking, but
Oh, yeah,
now
for sure.
they're non-stop. Because all of your map positioning and weapons changes are done on the fly. It's just awesome. But two screens are just the first of twos that define DS. Let's move on to the next pair. 2 media bays. One accommodates DS software, easily holding games.
Now, see, this is
with
also
1
really
gigabit
nice,
of
right?
data and well beyond. The other plays all of your favorite GBA
Yeah.
games.
No, I always thought this was really cool about the DS. It's like, yeah, you could play your Game Boy Advance games on it too.
Yeah, oh yeah, right.
That's
Backwards
right.
compatibility
Backward
means so much.
compatibility means an instant library.
Well, it
of
does.
over
It gets a lot of
500
people, especially
titles.
early adopters, a chance
And
to
it
be able to use the
also
hardware,
welcomes a host
even
of
if there's
different
not games
accessories
necessarily
to
out that they
enrich
want to
your
buy
game
yet.
experience.
Yeah. Like, I think not having
Next,
backwards compatibility,
consider
and
the
we'll
most
get there in
exciting
future
key
E3s,
for game
is a big
players.
mistake.
Two
And we'll also know
incredible
that
new
in future
forms
E3s.
of player control.
Yeah,
This is where the
In fact, that'll be
connection
pretty
to your
contentious
game
a bit later on.
really changes. The
it
first
does.
is touchscreen.
I think it's also
Responding
kind of
to
one of
either
those
a
things where,
stylus
like, if
or
you
to your
don't have
fingertip.
it, you're giving less
It's
people a reason to buy it on
transformative.
launch. They'll just wait until
Whether
there's a
you're
big library of
inputting
games,
data
maybe a
onto
year down the road,
software
and buy it.
keyboard or
Yeah.
actually changing the direction or viewpoint of your gameplay, it's truly unique. The combination of two screens and touchscreen stands to reinvent gameplay. You can only find this on Nintendo. You can only feel this on Nintendo.
Very true.
And besides touch, there's talk.
Yeah.
The built-in microphone can be married to voice recognition programs. That means your voice and only your voice can control the play.
See, and this is also why the PSP
Together,
is done,
touch
right?
and voice
Because
Yeah.
you see the
vast
PSP,
new
it's like,
realms of game
it's
interaction.
3D,
If you're looking
and it plays
for the
movies,
future of gaming,
right?
look at the interface.
And then you have the DS, where it's like,
Finally,
it's
my
3D,
favorite too.
and it has
Dual
dual screens. You can
wireless
do a lot with it
capability.
from a gameplay perspective and a visual
first
perspective.
is a
Has a
proprietary
built-in
application
microphone,
that allows
touch
up to
screen,
16 people to play and
Yeah.
communicate
wireless
together.
capability, right? Like, I mean,
The
PSP
range
has that too, I
extends
think, but
up to 100
yeah,
feet.
still.
It does, yeah.
Think about
And
different
it's like,
seats in an office,
you know,
a lecture
you see,
hall,
like,
an airplane.
both
Who
of them,
says
and
they
it's
can't all
like,
become connected playgrounds?
you know, one's like
And with Nintendo
a
DS,
prehistoric stone
local
wheel, and the other one
wireless
is like a
takes on
modern,
whole
like,
new
racing wheel,
definition.
right?
Specifically,
If you compare
imagine
the two of
instant
them,
chat
that's kind of what
and
it's
draw,
like, right?
Transmitted exactly like
Yeah,
you created in
and
your
I think I did
handwriting.
mention it this part before.
Your little works of art
The wireless
will
capability
look the
was kind of
same
fun
way on
because,
other
like, games like
screens
Mario
as they
Kart
do
7, for
on your
example,
own.
you could go into the download play and
And DS
essentially
will
play with up to 8 people with only one person owning the game. Now, there was, like, some limitations on it where you could only play, like, the first 2 cups, but I thought it was really cool that they even let you do that. And, like, later with Mario Party DS, you could also play, like, full Mario Party games of up to 4 people with only one copy of the game. Again, only on, like, I think 2 or 3 of the 5 maps.
I don't know if that's true, because I think I've seen Let's Plays of, like, people actually playing, like, all the maps in Mario Party.
Well, no,
On,
they
like, Mario
can,
Party
but I
DS.
more mean if
Oh.
you only have one cartridge. Like, if you
No,
all
yeah,
have
they
the
only had one-
cartridge, then
no,
you
they-
can play together,
No,
yeah.
they only had one cartridge, though, from what I remember.
Really? Because I could have sworn that when I played it before, that, like, I was only able to play a couple of them with my friends because they didn't own the game.
I mean, it doesn't really make much sense, though, for them to, like, lock off maps like that. Oh, that might be something we'd have to look into. It's a cool thing that they let you do it. I don't think they lock off maps, or I don't think they lock off courses, though, either.
Well, I'm pretty sure they did in Mario Kart, because I do remember specifically that we weren't able to play a lot of the cups because of the download play, because whoever was doing the download play would have to play as a Shy Guy, and then whoever owned the game could pick whatever character they wanted to play. So, like, there was some limitations. Even when it came to the battle mode, I think you didn't get access to all the maps, too.
Okay, hold on. Let me do a Google here. Now I'm curious. Single card.
Okay.
Let me see, because it does mention it on here. See, now we're pausing it for parts that weren't even a thing that we really talked about before. You may have talked about that, but I don't think we talked about whether what you said is actually true or not. No offense, Megan.
Ooh. I mean, that's what I remember, and I had both the games, but I don't know. Maybe there was something wrong with it. I'm not sure. I just could have sworn that's how it worked with the download data specifically, not if you were playing multiplayer with the game cartridges where everyone has it, right?
Let me see here. Let me see if it says limitations. If I do limitations. Okay, so in Mario Kart DS, yeah, only 8 tracks are available in this mode. Those are the Mushroom Cup and those are the Retro Shell. All players are differently colored Shy Guys. Okay, what about Mario? What about Mario Party? I'm pretty sure the thing I saw allowed them to play all the Mario Party maps on a single cartridge. Let me see.
I don't know. I could have swore that it wouldn't let you do all of them. Maybe it was only the last one. I don't quite remember. Unfortunately, I don't have it anymore.
Different single card and multi-card. Let me see. So, okay, so from a 15-year-old thread on GameFAQs, someone is asking what the difference is between single card and multi-card, and some guy says no diff here, no multi-card in this game, no need really. He says no multi-card, but I don't think that's true. Because you can do that in DS. Right? Single card multiplayer. Party Island. I think that's the... I don't know. Because it could be... I don't know. One of us is definitely wrong. I'm not too sure who it is. But I know one of us is incorrect.
Well, if anyone happens to know in the comments, please fill us in. Because I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. But I don't have the game anymore. We can't exactly test it, unfortunately. I just figured I would never play it again, so I traded it in a few years ago.
Yeah, so with Mario Kart, you're right. I'm just not too sure about Mario Party. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure on a Let's Play I saw, I'm pretty sure they played Mario Party DS. 3 of them on one cart, and I know they played all the maps. So, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Maybe I can even show you that video later, just to confirm whether, you know, I'm thinking of a different Mario Party, maybe. Maybe they had more than one on the DS that I'm... Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they only had the one, but we'll see.
No problem.
Ooh.
Yeah, Wi-Fi was kind of a big deal on it too, because you didn't have that on a Game Boy Advance.
Wi-Fi means you can connect via the net. It's beyond online. It's no line.
It's no line. Good
That's
job,
such
Reggie.
a good line.
It is. It's a very good line.
It changes how you connect to your games and to each other. There's no reason to take my word for it. Instead, listen again to the developers who are already working on it. Their eyes are fixed firmly on the game horizon, mapping entirely new routes with Nintendo DS.
We look at the Nintendo DS as the next generation in portable gaming. It's more advanced, fully 3D. The 2 screens allow for a new game mechanic.
I think the brighter display, and I think this new
Nintendogs
was really going to set the standard.
Yeah, Nintendogs was kind of a big deal at the time too.
Going to be created in the future.
Did really well on the DS.
What I like best is the touch panels. The idea of just touching is wonderful.
Yeah. So
it's the touch panels that make things easy. The games that took a very complicated operating system and input system may be more player-friendly by
using you're right. Like, the developers love this idea.
The function will enable us to try more interesting things.
And one of the most exciting parts of playing video games is competing with your friends and your family, and to be able to compete with a live person is just ultimately the most exciting part of a product. The fact that a format like Nintendo DS supports that kind of multiplayer is tremendous because it really allows games to get to the next level.
We can use 4 screens when played by 2 players, maybe even 6 screens or 8 screens. The number of screens increases rapidly, and that kind of possibility of expansion makes us excited.
The developer opportunities are right now what's really driving a lot of creativity in the studios. How are we going to use the wireless?
Oh, okay, you know what? So I found another thread on Mario... on Mario Party DS, right?
Really focusing our game.
Oh, yeah?
And I may have misunderstood what the one guy said before. This one guy says, I know there's single card multiplayer, but is there any multi-card multiplayer? And the guy says no single card. So I guess there was no such thing as having more than one card for the multiplayer.
What you've heard and what you've seen,
okay, well, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
The DS story.
I guess.
You can't start to appreciate it until you get your hands on one starting tomorrow. And even then,
I don't know. So I might be right then. I don't know. See, other people would be more knowledgeable than either of us.
Yeah, I know for sure.
When will that launch come? We're targeting a release of Nintendo DS in both Japan and America this year.
Ooh, gonna destroy the PSP. Let's go, Nintendo.
And Europe
Yeah.
and Australia in the first quarter of next year. It will come to the market.
It's still crazy to me that this is back during the era of like non-global launches, right?
Yeah, like honestly, they got pretty close. Because I mean, we didn't have global launches of a lot of things. Because even like Pokemon games at this point didn't come to America until roughly around a year later.
Yeah, and that was just, you know, the way it was. Now, I don't think that can really happen. I think things need to be released like worldwide now, you know?
Please join me in welcoming.
No, they definitely do it worldwide now whenever possible. I know, at least in the 3DS era, I do know when it came to certain companies like Atlas that stuff would come to the EU a little bit later, like maybe a couple months later. But like, I think in terms of like this last generation, I think everything comes out at the same time.
Was proud
Yeah.
when we introduced
Which
the
makes sense. I
plastic
feel like
switch
you're missing
with
out
the
on a lot of
NES
sales, a lot of hype if you
instead
don't release
of
it simultaneously.
button joysticks.
Oh, for sure.
Proud of two-player gaming.
Also, the man
with
himself,
NES.
Mr. Iwata.
Iwata, the
And
legend.
four-player gaming on Nintendo 64. Proud of that analog joystick and the Rumble Pack.
See, this is the thing with like Nintendo that I've said before, where I'm like, Nintendo has faces that you recognize, right?
Yeah.
With Nintendo, you have Miyamoto, Iwata, and Reggie, right?
Yeah.
Like immediately, right?
All make us proud. But I think we are most proud of this.
See, I just like the idea that every like Nintendo executive is just carrying a DS around at this point, like in their pocket.
I mean, yeah, it's. I guess that's also a marketing point. It shows it's small enough that you can carry it around anywhere.
True, true. Very subtle thing too, yeah.
Because that's kind of a big thing about portable consoles. Because I mean, even when it comes to stuff like the PSP, the fat PS3 specifically, it's just like, yeah, it's not super big, but it's just bulky enough that you couldn't really fit it in your pocket. Now, I know that might be different for guys because they get bigger pockets. I don't get bigger pockets as a girl. I can't put anything in my pockets. My phone sticks half out my pockets.
That same word, different.
That's kind of
So
true.
it really makes a difference.
Our approach for our next home
Honestly, that's part of the reason why I like the DS so much, because like I've been taking my DS to work lately just to play when I'm on my breaks, and like it's really nice to have a small compact thing that I can kind of just stick in my pocket.
Yeah, right. Like I bet. So you know more about that than me. I don't really do handhelds.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see that being definitely like a good selling point.
Yeah, like I never did it a ton as a kid. Like I wouldn't bring it to school or anything like that. My parents were very much against that, and like, you know, I didn't see a point because I'm like, yeah, I could play it at recess, but that's like 15 minutes. I'm gonna wait till I get home.
Yeah, right.
But like when we took it on car trips and stuff, it was really nice to have it small and compact.
Now I do want to just point out here, right, that Iwata says something pretty interesting that if it's cool, I want to
Yeah.
bit of a listen to.
Our approach for our next home system. It won't simply be new, it won't simply include new technologies. Better technology is good, but technology is not enough.
Yeah.
Today's consoles already offer fairly photorealistic expressions. Simply beefing up those graphics will not let most of us see a difference. So what should a new machine do? For both game creators and game players, new machine needs to do much more. They must
I guess he's
offer
continuing.
an unprecedented play experience,
Yeah.
something no other machine has delivered before.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it here because obviously he's talking about the Wii, right?
Yeah.
He's definitely talking about the Wii, and it's so crazy to think that at this point in time, like nobody knew like how crazy the Wii would blow up, right?
Oh, for sure.
And everything he's saying definitely does fit with the Wii, and I guess in a weird way, like the Nintendo DS is kind of like a proof of concept of that, even. Where it's like, we want to be innovative, we want to find a new way for people to play, and a new way for people to develop games. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not just enough to have like the best graphics. They already know they're not going to, win in the graphics department, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, we don't need that. We're not aiming for that. We're aiming for innovative and how to make play more interesting, right?
Yeah, which I would say they accomplished pretty well on the DS and the Wii.
Oh, for sure. Like they did such a good job. Like it's really interesting to hear this with the context that we have now in our world, right?
Yeah.
Where the Wii became a massive hit, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's super innovative. Like and it's funny because like me personally, I did enjoy the Wii, but I will admit I didn't play the Wii that much, right? But even I was still like damn, this is just like really cool to have like the motion controls like that,
It was a really cool piece of technology, and it did appeal a lot to more casual gamers. Like, I think one of my favorite things I heard about was like people buying Wiis to help rehabilitate people in hospitals, and even people buying it. Like, I remember when I was in high school, we had one in one of our clubs that we could just go and play. I don't think they had that club going for very long. I only remember going to it in grade 10, but they had it going. They had a Wii, and they had a few games, and I think we used to meet up like once a week, and we could bring games to play during lunchtime.
Yeah, so like absolutely crazy.
Yeah, because I don't think it's sold quite as much as the PS2, but I think in terms of numbers, it's pretty close.
Potentially, but at the same time, like for the next generation, the Wii demolishes, right?
Oh yeah.
In terms of sales. So it is absolutely crazy. And then we'll get there, but I find it funny how it's like new innovation, hits out of the ballpark, DS. New innovation, Wii U goes absolutely crazy. New innovation, Wii U falls flat on its face, right?
Yeah.
And once again, we'll get there. And we'll probably talk about like why the Wii U probably failed. I think we've talked about it a bit before even, but
yeah.
We'll get there in a few years.
The definition
we will.
New machine
I will say when it comes to the 3DS in particular, though, like their launch period was pretty rough. Like they could have very easily lost on the 3DS as well if things didn't go the way they did.
Really? See, I don't know much about the 3DS. That one you'll probably have to take control of when we see that.
Yeah, like I'll mention more about that probably when they're revealing the 3DS. But basically, it was a very expensive console, didn't have a lot of games, so they lowered the price. Like I think 6 months after it came out, and like anyone who bought the game originally got a pack of, I think it was about 20 virtual console games as part of the ambassador program.
They really don't matter.
But yeah, like people were really not interested in the 3DS at the time.
Okay.
The time when horsepower alone made an important difference is over. From this time on, we must create something more unprecedented experiences, the same way we have with Nintendo DS.
Yeah, see, and I appreciate this here too. Him saying, as you can see here too.
Revolution is well underway.
Yeah.
When you see it, you will be excited because you will experience a gaming revolution.
Yeah, so they're doing the thing where
video games will be changed.
They've already accepted they're not going to win in the graphics department, right?
The great new experiences.
They're like, we're not going to be the most powerful, but we'll be the most fun, most innovative at the very least, and revolutionary, which is true.
Yeah.
That's not the end of it, by the way. I know last time we did this in the previous timeline, I got baited a little bit thinking this is the end.
Thank you, Mr. Iwata.
Yeah.
I hope you've all enjoyed our program this morning. But before you leave, I'd like you to step inside one more world for Nintendo GameCube.
And here we go, the announcement of Twilight Princess.
Yeah, this was a pretty revolutionary and I think slightly controversial Zelda at the time, because like I think people liked Wind Waker, well, but like this is the dark, gritty Zelda.
Here's the thing with Zelda though. As a fan of like the Zelda games, every Zelda that comes out is controversial till the next one comes out.
Except for Breath of the Wild.
And that's just, well, yeah, but like, yeah, that's just been a fact. Like, maybe not for Breath of the Wild, sure, but every Zelda at around this point, because like, and Ocarina, I guess it was kind of the in between, because like Majora's Mask comes out, man, it's the worst. And then Wind Waker comes out. Oh, Majora's Mask is great. Oh, Wind Waker looks like garbage. Right? Man, what's with the cel shading graphics? The legend himself. Okay, I'm going to continue my thing here, then we'll finish with Miyamoto, the man himself.
Yeah.
And then, like Twilight Princess comes out. It's like, oh, Twilight Princess is garbage. Man, Wind Waker actually looks really nice.
Yeah.
Right? I hate Zelda fans for that. Like Zelda fans are great. Like, I'm not saying I literally hate Zelda fans. But like, if you're a Zelda fan at the time, you were so used to everybody else saying the previous game was garbage or the new game's garbage, previous game is great. Right? And that's how it went for so long. That was like such a big meme. Right?
Yeah, like I'd even argue that at least when it comes to the Pokemon fan base, they've kind of been doing that pretty much every generation since Gen 6. Everyone was like excited when Gen 6 came out, and then Gen 7 came out, and people were like, oh, this Gen sucks. And then Gen 8 came out, and people were like, oh, this Gen sucks, but Sun and Moon weren't as bad as we thought they were. And now they're even doing it with Sword and Shield now, where like I see more posts, people like, yeah, this game is not as bad. Like it's not super great as a Pokemon game, but it's not as bad as people made it out to be. And I'm very positive the same thing will happen with Scarlet and Violet whenever the next generation comes out.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's maybe it's just like a thing with Nintendo gamers, but I don't know. It's just very weird in that regard, you know?
I mean, yeah.
Previous is always the best, current gen is always the worst, you know?
Yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if that's just a thing with Nintendo gamers. Because I think even when it comes to like some PlayStation and Sony franchises, they have a similar thing. It doesn't happen every single game, but it definitely happens every now and then.
Yeah. That's probably true. I couldn't name any from Sony and Microsoft, mind you, but I'm sure it probably does exist.
Yeah, like I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's other fan bases that are like that too. It just seems to be a lot more common with Nintendo gamers.
Ladies and gentlemen,
That's very well done.
please welcome
Yeah.
Shigeru Miyamoto.
Yeah, there he is. Look at him. See, I love Miyamoto because he has fun every time he's on stage.
He does.
Like, he has fun.
I'm not Link, but I do know him. Even after 18 years, the Legend of Zelda never stops changing. And this game is no different. We are now taking you to a world where Link has grown up, a world where he will act different and look different. In order to grow, Link must not stand still, and neither can I. So, thank you.
Thanks, Miyamoto. Woo!
And goodbye.
See, he just comes on, he has fun, is cool, and then he just leaves, right? Like, he's so great.
Yeah.
He's so great. Then the classic Zelda logo, of course. Probably because they don't have a name for it or even a logo design for the new one yet.
Yeah, not yet.
And I want to point out just how like oddly, how do I want to put it? Like, and this is something I didn't catch when we first watched it. How good of a line "I'm not Link, but I do know him" is.
Yeah.
That's a good line, right?
That is a really good line.
Because like, yeah, Miyamoto does know Link. He's right. He created him, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I don't know. To me, I like that
my
line,
career
actually.
Marketing products to teens and 20-somethings. And I learned a long time ago, there's no BSing that audience. They want great product and they want great value. They want cutting edge and they want legendary. They want the best of the past and they demand what's absolutely right now. Nintendo is delivering all of that. Zelda, Capcom's Resident Evil, Pokemon, Mario, and Nintendo DS all boost the momentum we're carrying into this E3 through the rest of this year and well beyond. We're giving players what they want for both GameCube and Game Boy Advance, and they're rewarding us with more market share. Funny how that works. As you've seen, Nintendo DS is not standing still. As a 10th serious competitor decides to make a run at Game Boy, DS raises the bar on portable gaming before they even get started.
Yep, exactly.
Nintendo DS is a third way to play. It defines its own category. It reinvents portable entertainment, and so will Nintendo's revolution. I hope if we've done anything, it's to show you that this is a new day for Nintendo. We remain all about the game, all about the gamer, or in other words, all about you. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Thanks, Reggie. Yeah, really good. So, Megan, I know we already talked about this, but in your opinion, just because this is the end, correct? Yeah. Who would you say won E3 2004?
I think hands down it's Nintendo this year.
Yeah.
Because, like, I know Microsoft and Sony both had a decent, like, showing of stuff. It was kind of cool to see the PSP in particular. But there was just so much stuff in Nintendo stuff. A lot of good games. And, you know, the DS. Like, I feel like it's very hard to beat.
It's very hard to beat. Because, like you said, you have the DS. You have... You have a lot of good games. You have Reggie, once again, who is literally the best presenter that you could have at one of these things, you know? And he's coming out swinging. And, you know, the thing with Nintendo as well is, aside from, like, a very small portion, it was all telling you about, like, the next thing they're going to innovate on. Here's a cool game that we're making. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas with Sony and Microsoft, I feel like it was still very much like, well, here's a bunch of like graphs and stats, and here's some technical like stuff, but you know, it's not like super interesting, you know what I mean? And especially with Sony, where it's like, man, here's the PSP. Let me just play you a whole movie trailer. Right?
Yeah, I know, right?
You know? So, you know, it's like, well, that's not really interesting for me. You know, like it's neat, but it's not really showing me the stuff that I really want to see, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo showed me a lot of stuff that I really want to see, and you could even kind of hear it in the crowd, right? I don't know if they just have like a different crowd setup, but Microsoft and Sony, you didn't really hear anything from the crowd, right? With Nintendo, it was a lot of ooh, like wow, like look at this, and a lot of like video games, right? Which
and before Nintendo has a bunch of plants in the crowd.
I mean, hey, if they do it, then hey, it's working, right? Because it really makes their conference seem much more hyped up and enjoyable by the fan base, right?
Yeah.
Like the crowd got behind them, and to me, that says a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I have to agree. I think hands down, Nintendo won 2004's E3.
Yeah. It's a good conference. And, you know, obviously having the introduction of Reggie, who we know is going to be a monumental figure, is also kind of like icing on the cake.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Right. No, absolutely amazing stuff. So, yeah. Is that it? Anything else you want to add?
No, I think I'm good. I think I've said pretty much everything I need to.
All right, so thank you once again to Cars Luck for the upload. And we're not going to see you in 2005 yet, but you're going to see past Megan and me go through the show floor because I didn't lose that for some reason.
Well, that's good. That's a longer one.
All right, so thank you very much, everybody, for I messed up. All right, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We hope you all enjoyed, but for now, it is time we cue the outro. So Frag out, and we shall catch you guys later.
Bye.